For decades, Canada and the United States enjoyed a seamless energy partnership, their economies intertwined by a vast network of pipelines. Canadian oil from Alberta powered American refineries, fueling cars and heating homes, while American investment helped develop Alberta's oil sands. This arrangement was a cornerstone of trust and mutual benefit, celebrated as a model of international cooperation. The pipeline network symbolized this deep bond, making the two economies almost inseparable. Communities on both sides of the border thrived, their prosperity linked by the steady flow of energy. But this stability relied on shared rules and a belief that economic logic would always trump politics. That sense of security, especially in Alberta, was about to be shattered. The foundation of trust that held this partnership together would soon be put to the ultimate test. The return of Donald Trump in 2025 upended the old order, replacing partnership with an aggressive America First agenda. Trade became a zero-sum game, and long-standing agreements were suddenly up for renegotiation or tariffs. President Trump declared a national energy emergency, using executive power to push for new deals and leverage tariffs. A secretive permit for a new Alberta to Montana pipeline, granted without consultation, signaled a willingness to bypass established norms. Canada could no longer count on special treatment. The era of predictable trade was over. The Trump administration's actions forced Canada to confront its dependence on the U.S. market. Strategic independence, once theoretical, became an urgent priority. The political landscape had changed overnight. Canada realized it had to adapt or be left behind. Alberta's frustration had been building for years, long before the latest political upheaval. The province's ambitions to reach global markets were repeatedly blocked as major pipeline projects like Keystone XL and Energy East were cancelled. Billions in lost revenue and jobs left Alberta's oil landlocked, sold at a discount to its only major customer, the U.S. These setbacks weren't just economic, they felt like betrayals by both Ottawa and Washington. The inability to build new export routes deepened Alberta's sense of grievance and isolation. Many Albertans saw a world hungry for energy, yet they were unable to deliver. This history forged a steely resolve. Alberta would find a new way forward, one that didn't depend on others' approval. The repeated blockades transformed frustration into determination for change. Amid growing anxiety, Mark Carney emerged as Canada's new Prime Minister. With a background in global finance, Carney saw the dangers of over-reliance on the U.S. as a threat to Canada's sovereignty. He recognized that diversifying trade was now a necessity, not a choice. Carney threw his support behind a bold vision, a pipeline bypassing the U.S. entirely. This marked a decisive shift. Ottawa was now aligned with Alberta's ambition to reach world markets directly. Carney's leadership gave the project credibility and signaled Canada's intent to control its energy destiny. It was a declaration Canada would chart its own course in a turbulent world. In Alberta, Premier Danielle Smith became the fierce champion of her province's interests. She demanded Alberta's right to build pipelines and sell resources freely, embodying the province's frustration and resolve. Smith criticized federal policies and regulatory hurdles that stifled Alberta's growth and left billions locked in the ground. Her vision multiple pathways to market, ending dependency on a single customer. Smith fought to protect Alberta's exports from U.S. tariffs, but also pushed for a made-in-Canada solution, a pipeline to the coast. She rejected separatism, insisting Alberta's future lay in more choices, not new masters. Her leadership galvanized the province around the principle of economic self-determination. Alberta's fight was now for freedom to choose its own partners and path. The new plan was simple, yet incredibly ambitious. Build a pipeline stretching from the heart of Alberta's oil sands all the way to a Canadian coast, completely bypassing the United States. For decades, Canada's energy exports had been funneled almost exclusively south, leaving the country dependent on a single customer and vulnerable to shifting U.S. policies. This bold vision was about more than just steel and oil. It was about rewriting the rules of Canadian energy and reclaiming control over the nation's economic destiny. With strong backing from both Alberta's provincial government and Ottawa, the project quickly became a symbol of national unity and ambition. The goal was clear: to give Canada direct access to global markets, allowing the country to negotiate on its own terms and reach customers in Asia, Europe, and beyond. For the first time, Canadian oil would have a truly international gateway. This was a direct response to years of mounting frustration. Frustration over lost opportunities, stalled projects, and the feeling that Canada's economic future was being dictated by forces outside its borders. The pipeline became a rallying cry, a declaration of economic independence, and a promise to future generations that Canada would chart its own course. By finally reaching the Pacific or Atlantic, Canada could break free from its reliance on the US market and sell its oil at full value on the world stage. This access would mean higher revenues, more stable prices, and a stronger negotiating position for Canadian producers. It was a chance to transform the country's role in the global energy landscape. Billions in lost revenue could be reclaimed, money that could be reinvested in public services, from hospitals and schools to infrastructure and innovation. The pipeline promised to create thousands of jobs, not just in Alberta but across the country, fueling economic growth and offering new hope to communities hit hard by downturns in the energy sector. Of course, the project faced enormous logistical, environmental, and political challenges. Building a pipeline across vast, rugged terrain required unprecedented engineering feats. Environmental groups raised concerns about the risks to sensitive ecosystems and indigenous lands. Politicians debated fiercely, but the urgency of the moment and the sense of unity among Canadians were unlike anything seen before. Premier Smith's passionate advocacy, combined with the influential support of Mark Carney, helped galvanize public opinion and political will. Their leadership brought together industry, government, and communities, creating a momentum that pushed the project forward at a historic pace. The ultimate goal was clear: energy sovereignty for Canada and the dawn of a new era of prosperity. It was about ensuring that the wealth generated from Canadian resources would benefit Canadians first, strengthening the nation's economy and its place in the world. The vision of a pipeline to the world, a direct link from Alberta's oil fields to international markets, was closer than ever to becoming a reality, promising to reshape Canada's future for generations to come. Building a bypass pipeline is about more than just infrastructure. It's about sovereignty, and Canada's right to shape its own economic destiny. For decades, the country's energy future has been closely tied to decisions made outside its borders, often leaving Canadians feeling like passengers rather than drivers. Dependence on the US market has left Canada vulnerable to shifting political winds, trade threats, and policy changes that can happen overnight. When your biggest customer can also be your biggest competitor, the stakes are high and the risks even higher. That's why diversifying customers is essential. No successful business relies on just one buyer, especially when that buyer is a superpower with its own interests. By opening up to new markets, Canada can protect itself from sudden disruptions and ensure a more stable future for its energy sector. Direct access to tidewater means Canadian oil can reach Asia and Europe, tapping into growing economies and new opportunities. This flexibility gives Canada leverage, resilience, and the ability to negotiate from a position of strength, not weakness. For Alberta, the bypass pipeline is more than a project. It's validation after years of struggle and debate. It's a chance to finally secure lasting prosperity for workers, families, and communities that have weathered boom and bust cycles for generations. The US will always be an important partner, but this new pipeline rebalances the power dynamic. It signals that Canada is ready to stand on its own terms, making decisions that put its own interests first. American refineries may face higher costs, but Canada's move isn't about hostility. It's about strategy. It's about ensuring that Canadian resources benefit Canadians while still maintaining strong cross-border relationships. The message is clear. Canada will no longer be a passive partner in energy trade. It's taking charge of its future, setting its own course, and demanding a fairer deal on the world stage. This is about fairness, independence, and writing a new chapter in North American relations, one where Canada's voice is stronger and its choices matter more than ever before. The bypass pipeline is Canada's answer to decades of uncertainty, a bold step toward a future where the country's resources and its destiny are truly in Canadian hands. Canada's decision to build a bypass pipeline inevitably strains its relationship with the US. For decades, the two countries have enjoyed a close partnership, built on mutual trust and shared economic interests, especially in the energy sector. But this bold move signals a shift, a recognition that energy security and national priorities are taking precedence over old alliances. The era of seamless integration is giving way to strategic competition. Where once there was easy cooperation, now there is a sense of caution and calculation. Both sides are reassessing their positions, weighing the benefits of collaboration against the risks of dependency. In Washington, Canada's move is seen as a direct response to America First policies, an assertion of sovereignty in the face of growing protectionism. This perception is likely to fuel political debate, intensifying scrutiny of cross-border energy deals, and leading to a cooling of relations at the highest levels. The new pipeline shifts negotiating power. For the first time in years, Canada can bargain from a position of strength, no longer solely dependent on American infrastructure or goodwill. This newfound leverage will shape future trade talks and energy agreements. American refineries, which have long relied on a steady flow of Canadian crude, may now face uncertainty. Supply challenges could disrupt operations, prompting industry leaders to lobby for government intervention and new policies to secure alternative sources. The once unified North American energy front could fracture as interests diverge. What was once a seamless network is now marked by competing priorities and growing divisions, threatening the stability of the continent's energy landscape. Despite these tensions, the deep-rooted partnership between Canada and the US will endure. However, it will become more complex, more pragmatic, and less reliant on goodwill alone. Both countries will need to navigate a new reality, balancing cooperation with competition. Both nations will pursue their interests more assertively, moving from an era of easy friendship to one of cautious alliance. Negotiations will be tougher, and every agreement will be scrutinized for its long-term impact. The relationship is evolving into one of equals, shaped by new economic and geopolitical realities. Each side recognizes the value of the other, but neither is willing to compromise its own interests. Ultimately, the continental rift is not a breakup, but a rebalancing, a necessary adjustment as both countries adapt to a changing world and redefine what partnership means in the 21st century. Canada's pipeline to the world marks a new era, one of strategic independence, not just integration. This isn't a rejection of the US, but an adaptation to a changing world where relying on one customer is no longer viable. Alberta's future looks brighter, with direct access to global markets promising renewed prosperity. Persistent advocacy from Premier Smith and strategic support from Carney have aligned the province and nation. The US must now adjust to being a major but not exclusive customer for Canadian oil. The relationship will be more balanced, demanding respect and cooperation. North American energy ties will endure, but the era of taking them for granted is over. What emerges is a more complex, resilient alliance, one shaped by the steel of new pipelines and the realities of a changing world.